Imagine this: Google, one of the most powerful companies in the world, facing the biggest challenge of its existence. The mobile revolution was unfolding, and the company had no plan to join the race. But then, something unexpected happened. Google, the search engine giant, took a massive risk with a failed Android phone that would later change the tech world forever. This is a story of failure, comeback, and how one disastrous launch became the foundation of the world's most used mobile OS. If you're into tech failures, underdog stories, and how tech giants like Google were once on the brink of disaster, you're going to love this story. Trust me, you won't see the twists coming. Before we go further, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our tech stories and stories of massive comebacks. Let's get into it. The year was 2005. The world was changing, and mobile phones were at the forefront of that monumental shift. As technology continued to advance, the demand for more advanced, multifunctional mobile devices surged. At that time, mobile phones were no longer just tools for communication. They were evolving into powerful personal gadgets capable of performing a wide range of functions, from entertainment to productivity. But Google, despite its dominance in the world of search engines and digital advertising, Google had no clear mobile strategy. The tech giant had focused primarily on building an empire based on its core product, the search engine. But as the mobile industry was growing at a rapid pace, it was clear that Google needed to innovate in this space or risk falling behind. At the time, Apple's iPhone was still a couple of years away from launching, and companies like Nokia, BlackBerry, and Palm were still ruling the mobile market. These companies had established themselves as the go-to brands for mobile phones, and they were miles ahead of Google when it came to mobile technology. Google, with its billion-dollar empire built on search advertising, had absolutely nothing to offer the booming mobile industry. The company had no operating system, no hardware, and no mobile app ecosystem to compete with these entrenched players. As mobile phones continued to evolve, Google realized it was missing out on an opportunity to play a pivotal role in the next era of technology. Fast forward a few years, and Apple's iPhone, the game changer, was about to hit the shelves. The iPhone, which would debut in 2007, was poised to completely transform mobile technology and consumer behavior. With its sleek design, intuitive touch interface, and integration of internet and media capabilities, the iPhone was more than just a phone. It was a smartphone revolution. As soon as the iPhone hit the market, it became clear that the future of mobile technology was centered on smartphones. Everyone knew that whoever controlled the smartphone market would control the future, a concept that became evident as Apple's dominance rapidly grew. But Google was missing out. Despite being an industry leader in search and digital tools, they had no mobile platform of their own to compete with Apple's iPhone or other mobile giants like Nokia and BlackBerry. Google had a huge blind spot in its business model, and if the company didn't act fast, their future might be in jeopardy in the new mobile-centric world. So, in 2005, Google made a decision that would ultimately change the course of history. They acquired a small startup called Android Inc. This company, founded by Andy Rubin, had been working on its own operating system for mobile phones. At the time, Android Inc. was just one of many small players hoping to make a dent in the mobile market. But Google saw potential. The acquisition of Android Inc. seemed like a smart move at the time, a way for Google to get ahead of the game and ensure they weren't left behind in the coming mobile boom. The goal was to create an operating system that could eventually compete with Apple's iOS and become the foundation for Google's presence in the mobile market. But what no one knew at the time was that Android would initially fail miserably. Google's bet on Android was risky. The Android operating system was still in its early development stages, and it faced numerous challenges to make it a viable alternative to iOS. Android's first phone, the HTC G1, was launched in 2008, but it wasn't the sleek, cutting-edge device we think of today. In fact, the HTC G1 was clunky, with a cumbersome design and a poor user interface. The hardware was underwhelming, and many users found the experience frustrating compared to the polished iPhone. The HTC G1 while groundbreaking in its own right, as the first Android-powered phone, didn't live up to the high expectations that were set for it. The operating system, while promising, was still in its infancy, and the phone failed to gain significant traction in the marketplace. People were excited for Android, but when the HTC G1 hit the market, it didn't live up to the hype. Google's dream to challenge Apple was starting to look more like a nightmare as the first wave of Android devices underperformed. Here's where the twist comes in. Something extraordinary happened after that failure. Instead of abandoning the project after the HTC G1's disappointing performance, Google decided to double down on Android. They didn't give up on Android. Rather than scrapping the idea, they identified the flaws in the first Android phone and worked tirelessly to improve the software and hardware. Google made significant improvements to the Android operating system, redesigned the user interface, and focused on creating a more polished, intuitive experience. They also started collaborating with other manufacturers to expand Android's reach, ensuring that more phones would be built with Android as the operating system. The next major Android-powered phone, the Motorola Droid, launched in 2009. And that's when everything began to change for Android and its future. Android's evolution was rapid. With the release of Android 2.0, known as Eclair, the operating system became sleeker, faster, and much more user-friendly. Google continued to refine the Android experience, adding new features and enhancing the operating system's performance. The Android market, which would later be rebranded as the Google Play Store, was introduced as an open platform where developers could create and distribute apps. By encouraging third-party developers to build apps for Android, Google accelerated the growth of the Android ecosystem, making it more attractive to both developers and consumers. As Android devices started flooding the market, the platform gained more attention, and Android's future started to look incredibly bright. The rest, as they say, is history. By the time Android launched its Nexus line, a series of high-end Android phones developed in collaboration with major manufacturers like Samsung, HTC, and LG, it was clear that Google had found its formula. Android's platform was open source, meaning anyone could develop it further and customize it. This gave Android a significant advantage over iOS, which was closed off and controlled entirely by Apple. The open-source nature of Android allowed manufacturers to create a wide variety of Android phones catering to different needs, budgets, and specifications. Soon, major companies like Samsung, HTC, and LG were pumping out Android phones at an astonishing rate. By 2012, Android had become the dominant operating system in the smartphone market, powering a vast majority of smartphones worldwide. Think about it. Google turned a failed Android phone into a multi-billion-dollar business. Android became the world's most used mobile operating system, fundamentally changing the future of smartphones forever. What began as a risky move to secure a place in the mobile market blossomed into an ecosystem that now powers billions of devices globally. From smartphones to smartwatches, tablets, TVs, and beyond. Today, Android's influence is undeniable, with billions of users worldwide depending on the Android ecosystem for their daily needs. And this is where things get really interesting. Android didn't just change Google's future, it shaped the entire tech ecosystem. The open-source nature of Android forced Apple to innovate, pushing them to refine iOS and introduce new features to maintain their competitive edge. Android's rise also sparked the explosion of mobile app development, creating a multi-billion-dollar industry of app stores, developers, and mobile-first businesses. The tech world opened up to new players as Android's open ecosystem leveled the playing field, providing opportunities for smaller companies to enter the market. The Android revolution didn't just impact Google's bottom line. It helped ignite a broader tech revolution that reshaped industries across the globe. The phone that almost failed Google ended up becoming the foundation of an entirely new era of smart technology. So, what do we learn from the story of Android's birth? Sometimes, failure is the best thing that can happen to a company. If Google had abandoned Android after the disappointing HTC G1, the world might have never witnessed the incredible success and innovation that followed. The Android story proves that the greatest comebacks often arise from the darkest failures. By embracing failure as an opportunity for learning and growth, Google ultimately transformed the mobile industry and became a dominant force in the global tech ecosystem. If you loved hearing how this Android went from a failure to a multi-billion-dollar empire, imagine what other untold tech stories are waiting for you. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and hit the bell to stay updated on more mind-blowing comebacks, tech transformations, and industry secrets. Join the journey. You won't want to miss what's coming next.